And different studio altogether, different matters altogether as we delve deep into understanding just how involved the youths are on matters of politics. It is instrumental that we are, I am saying that we are because I'm part and parcel of that youth camp, so to speak. Sometimes we tend to say that we really do not know what youths are in our country because, well, as they would speak, it's around there 35, but in most cases it extends all the way to whatever it is that you know. And so that's what we'll be discussing this morning. We delve not much on matters BBI, but the general perspective of how involved we are, and I have able youths right here on board who are instrumental also in trying to shape this narrative and change the whole scenario where youths have always been looked at as people who are on the sideshows, but we now get actively on matters politics. We are the future. We certainly are the people who are going to change the future and actually make it as good as we'd want it to be. That's all as we get to be part and parcel of the conversations that are ongoing at the national perspective. That is on matters politics, and the BBI is the key one that is on ground as of today. We have had some of these individuals on board and I've had a fair share of conversation in regards to matters BBI. We've had a chance to understand what their view on matters BBI is or are, and we'd love to hear whether indeed they have changed or they stick to that. The first time I had one of them, who's Edwin Kigoli, he was really anti-BBI. Before I knew it, he was pro-BBI. And so I'd love to know what is this one thing that got him changing. The other time, or the first time I had a conversation with one of them, who is Dr. Eric Regalo, he was pro-BBI. But before I knew it, he had changed his tone. So all this is culminating from the conversations that we are having. And so that is what we'll be looking at this morning. So the few of them who feel like the BBI is good enough for the youth or the people at large will be telling us why they think it is so. And the few of them who think otherwise will equally be telling us why they think it is so. And together we come on that particular one ground that will be helpful, because what's important is for us to have this conversation. I don't know whether I'll introduce all of them, but again, I think I will. Edwin Kigoli is right next to me, and then we have Waruguru Kiai, right, who's right next to me. So Edwin Kigoli is a political analyst, technically someone who's so much involved on youth and matters youth policy. It's good to have you this morning. And then we have Waruguru, who's a board director, the Youth Agenda. Good to have you this morning. Kendi Mbaya is right next to Waruguru, who's a political analyst. Good to have you, Kendi. And we have Eric Regalo right there also, ODM Youth and Matters Youth policy experts, or so to speak. And we have Mariah. Good to have you right behind that is Kendi and Eric Regalo. Good to have you, Mariah. Thank you for your time this morning. We also have Nordin Kagai, who's sitting right next to Mariah, and we have Nathaniel. Nathaniel, good to have you. I always call you Nathaniel Agadima. I don't know why you don't like that name. So I'll use what it is that you want us to say. So it's Nathaniel Mungare. Good to have you this morning. And finally, we have Solomon Kuria. Good to have you, also a youth leader. So ladies and gentlemen, it's good to have you this morning. We don't have so much time at our disposal, but then again, with the little that we have, we discuss this issue. And so let's kickstart this conversation from what happened yesterday. That is over the weekend. We have seen how youth have been involved. The latest coming from Mike Sonko in regards to the utterances that he makes on what played out in 2017 politics. We all know that if there are individuals that were instrumentally used to cause chaos during the 2017 elections and the previous elections that we have witnessed, or electioneering period that we've seen, then of course we have to be talking about the youths in this particular scenario. And so when we speak of the youths being involved, actively being taken around by politicians and people who are moneyed, we sometimes get to that point where we ask ourselves, do we even have youths who are objective enough to probably change this narrative, where we can have a conversation where it is the youths that are driving the day as opposed to them being driven by what it is that they are given in terms or in form of handouts? Probably start with you, Solomon.
Let me start by saying that first of all, my good friend, the Deputy President, must stop giving Mike Sonko the microphone to speak to people.
As Moses Kuria said,
Mike Sonko is sick. He needs a psychiatrist. And the best thing the Deputy President can do is probably give him some money to see a doctor. Because you don't say such things about people. And in any case, what Mike Sonko should do, if he is okay, is go to the DCI and record a statement. Tell the DCI that this is what we did, and this was the person, and this is the evidence. We must stop this thing of, saying all manner of things carelessly. And Mike Sonko is one of the persons I would not treat with any iota of seriousness. He's a person I disregard because, one, he's bitter. He's like that jilted girlfriend, you know, that you tell it's over and she's still hanging there.
I don't expect the ladies
or a boyfriend, or a boyfriend for that matter,
right,
you know.
You.
Like that jilted lover, let me use that word.
If he's able to substantiate.
Who doesn't want to leave,
yes.
okay? Who doesn't want to leave, but you're already through with them. So Sonko, now he has a day in court with PS Kibicho, and maybe we are waiting to see whether he can substantiate, but I can tell you, I can bet on my last dollar.
That he would not?
That he will not.
All right, well, you were part and parcel of the ODM brigade back then, and it was such a painful occurrence to be told that, yes, you're the ones who are propagating this and all that. Do you feel like, you know, finally it's a sigh of relief? And if Mike Sonko is able to substantiate this, then really, can we point fingers at all? Is it necessary? Is it coming at a time that we really need this?
Well, as a member of ODM National Governing Council, a member of ODM Chairman Rural Constituency, former candidate ODM Rural Constituency, I was number 2. I've been in politics in ODM for over 12 years. And at no time, I've met His Excellency Raila Odinga personally and with groups of youth many, many times. And I don't remember, and this I want to say it on TV, at one time or any other that you were ever told to go burn cars and loot and do other manner of things. I remember any time we would do any demonstration, even the tear gas Monday and Friday, every time we would tell each other that let's keep and bind by each other, let's work together, let no one go to any shop, loot or hit anybody. Let's keep on our road. At many times we would find things happening that we will not understand. I may know what to defend the government of Jubilee then, because that is not just Sonko talking. He was an insider of Jubilee. And as much as I would say we are working with Jubilee, let them, the same way Prime Minister said, let them clean their house. Whatever they did to us, if they did, it is their own problem to solve. If we lost youth because of them, ni Mungu atawadharibu.
Well,
and then I want to say something. The way Solomon has said, when I was in school, we were taught what we call 5 stages of grief, which starts with denial, then remember Dabda, it was Dabda,
okay.
aggression, then after aggression, it's bargaining, then after bargaining, it is, I've forgotten the other day, then there is acceptance. Sonko is going through that. He'll go through the 5 stages. He hataruka tamoja.
Okay.
So it's good we understand that is not sober enough when you look at it psychologically. And I understand. I don't know why you should even, Kibicho would have, I don't know. If Kibicho was good enough, don't take him to court.
Oh, okay.
The other day
we
went to Raila's office. Mzee didn't meet him. Because angepea mzee nini? Mingi.
Okay, hold it right there.
So
now,
it's better we don't even give him.
Ragalo, the point of conversation here is not Mike Sonko, but just how sometimes the youths actually are the very same people who are used by these politicians that we're talking about. And we really are trying to sanitize ourselves from that. We really are trying to get to that point where we'll be able to tell no to some of these individuals. And true to it, those are arguments that, would be substantiated or would be in a way, be looked at as valid points for that matter. So as we drop this one, and I know you are carrying the microphone, but I'm afraid we have to give a lady. So for the sake of balance, and then we'll come back to you. And we get to look at this and how involved the youths are, because we're coming to talk about BBI. It is going to be an emotive affair. It still is. It's going to be really a heated up debate. If we're not careful as youths, then we might be misused in such a scenario.
I think the most important thing that we have right now is actually having access to information, so that at least we're able to inform ourselves on the facts on the ground as far as BBI is concerned. We want to have a conversation around how are young people involved in this document. And we have so many areas of intervention. Young people and persons with disabilities. After the initial BBI report, we have a consensus now that the 4 seats in the National Assembly are back. We want to see young people who are persons with disabilities representing their constituency in the National Assembly. I am very happy to have a talk about the judicial ombudsman, because now young people who have queries and complaints about what happens in the judiciary have a chance to air their complaints now. Every Friday, these Kamata Fridays affect young people, mostly in the villages, and sometimes we may not have the money to go around this judicial system. We want to be in an environment where young people can actually question what happens in the corridors of justice at a higher level. Those kind of conversations, young people and procurement, prompt payment of invoices at a county level to ensure that young people don't go bankrupt. We want young people and the law. A very interesting discussion yesterday about a young man who was supposed to be given a tender to supply beds, but apparently he cannot now get the tender because of his criminal record. But what comes as a challenge to us then is how we are treating young people who have been in conflict with the law, keeping in mind that in Kenya, the majority of people who are in prison are between 18 and 35 for petty offenses. How then do we rehabilitate young people in our communities to ensure that they are part of our community and they have access to these resources, including procurement? So on that particular issue, I would actually pray for all the stakeholders involved to think about as opposed to just shunning these young people away, to bring them back to the fold, because chances are in every 10 young people that you meet, 1 or 3 are actually in conflict with the law. We cannot take them away, and we cannot ignore their contribution in the community.
Okay, you speak of involvement of the youth, and if we are to look at the BBI itself, then probably, I'm afraid, in as much as we say we are past that stage, we'll have to go back to the formation of the task force, we'll have to go back to the handshake, we'll have to go back to just how many youths were involved in this. And for the longest of time, we've had complaints of the fact that even when you look at the formation of the task force, there is barely a youth within that will be seated down there and speak on behalf of the youths. But would you then say that in the current document that we have as of now, that is in the BBI, that in as much as we did not have one of us part and parcel of the task force, then a lot of issues that revolve around, strengthening the youthful aspect have been incorporated in this particular document. Who goes first? The gentleman behind, or we bring it back to you? The microphone is just going as you're watching. Okay.
First, Ragalo paints a very good picture of what demonstrations are. No, he's very soft-spoken. So when he's talking about demonstration, he's making it look like a very peaceful thing that took place. What they were just addressing issues. We forget how much violence was there, and how many youths were there, and how many youths we lost in violence, and some of them even today have gunshot wounds. So we need to move from youths being used as muscles to the brains, which is what BBI is trying to present. And in as much as we do not have a representation in the panel, our issues are raised. Right now, if I go to apply for a job and I have a HELB loan, I don't understand how you deny me a job because I have not cleared HELB loan. How am I supposed to clear it before you give me a job? So these are the issues that we need to discuss. These are the issues that affect
HELB loan. We're talking about a reprieve of how many years?
It's 4 years, and then after that,
so a scenario where you're getting a job 5 years after,
you still don't pay the HELB loan until you get your job.
All right.
So when you get a job,
so the 4 years, we start counting the 4 years at what point? When you get the job?
After graduation.
And then after you get a job? Or?
When you graduate, you're given 4 years. And then if after the 4 years you still haven't
gotten a job,
they still give the break until the day you get a job.
Is this well documented within the document?
It is very well
I have gone through it, and but I'd love for people to go through that. To understand that this is well documented, so that they can have a background of exactly what it is that they are getting themselves into, because the mechanisms of implementing what has been incorporated incorporated in the document, one of the issues that have been raised by the very same youths, just how realistic is this reprieve or tax, reprieve that we are talking about?
You see, we need to move away from the roadside declarations.
Yes.
Where someone campaigns and tells us, Nikiingia, I will give you guys a job. We need to have our issues documented and put in the constitution.
Yes.
That is why I support the Youth Commission. We have the National Youth Council, which still doesn't work because it is not in the constitution. Once we have a youth commission, same way we have a gender commission.
Okay.
If you didn't look at BBI, if you have looked at BBI, you will see women were the main winners. In fact, BBI looks like a document for the women. This is because they have a national gender youth commission. Once we have a youth commission, that is now when we start discussing our issues without having roadside declarations. Nikikuwa president nitanunua vitanda zako. Now we know that we have it's called the one that gives us a provision for having tenders.
Okay.
That as a youth, I am supposed to get a tender from my county government or the national government. Thank you. But because it is not so well documented, I will go to my county and my county governor is in court right now for giving his son a tender. His son is a youth.
And that's why that's the problem.
It's the son who's a youth.
Impunity is one thing that many people would question on whether indeed the document would address, especially on these clauses that we speak about. Bring back the microphone to Kegoli, but meanwhile, before it gets to him, let's first incorporate the gentleman behind. Nathaniel, leo umekuwa gentleman sana, ungangani microphone?
No, I want to listen.
All right, okay. Proceed. Who goes first?
Thank you.
All right.
Linda, first say Happy New Year to you.
Everyone, yes. Oh, the mic is off. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. As I'm listening to this gentleman and ladies here, I'm just worried. Because in the BBI we are told that there is a help loan for those people who want to go to higher education, but there can't be money for our policemen to go to Kegajo and Stanley.
Okay.
You see, we are not getting inclusion in this BBI.
Okay.
So we are partisan in some ways. But wacha niulize my friend here. As they were demonstrating in town, how many businesses that were shut down?
Right.
How many lives were lost? Yet they are saying no one told them to go burn other people's car. No one told them to go loot from other people's business. And they want to tell us now today that Ruto is telling the Hustle Nation to go and burn people's car. How long have you seen these people, the motorbike and the border people, do this in our country?
They have not said that.
No.
Generally, all right.
Since when they started?
Okay.
They started earlier. So it's not after the narrative of the Hustle Nation.
Okay.
And does they understand what the Hustle Nation means?
What does it mean?
It means that
in your own capacity
anybody, it's the narrative is whoever is determined to be something or to do something.
Okay.
This is what we are saying, that we want inclusion from the common mwananchi, that he can go far to be a president or a deputy or an MP.
We are not pessimists, but just how possible is that, Kigoli, in the nation as it stands today?
Well, first of all, allow me to start from the point of where you started. And when you hear young people coming out and being used, it is because, something has been taken away from them. And if these people are economically empowered, they would spend less time going to riot on the streets and destroying other people's properties. They would concentrate more on creating wealth and moving the economy, of course, through the retail transactions that really influence the gross domestic product. And in this country, we are, as a people, concerned that Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution has been decommissioned. When you look at Article 10 of the Kenyan Constitution on national values, most of our politicians do not even adhere to that. You look at the times when we are going into elections, and you would wonder what values we prioritize as a country. And this bothers me a lot, because as President Uhuru Kenyatta says, we lose 1 year to elections and lose the following year after elections. So what we are looking at right now is an economic downturn ahead of 2022, right. And then again an economic downturn after 2022. So how many productive years do we have in a span of 5 years? Perhaps 2 solid years. You get that scares foreign direct investment that would otherwise help to create jobs and create wealth in this country. Right. And when we see our even young leaders going to the podiums and inciting the public, hypnotizing the public, and like now beginning to reveal what happened in the past, you wonder what is their intention. And what we should be doing right now is to create that conciliatory tone than dividing our Kenyans. Because you look at the time BBI is coming and what is happening not only in this country, but also in the global sphere. Because right now, jobs have been lost, incomes have shrunk, and the economy is at its lowest in so many years right now. So what we should be looking at is, what is the BBI saying about the youth? And when it talks about creating these incubation centers, what essentially BBI means is that there is going to be wealth in the hands of young people, because they're going to be trained, they're going to be given money and taken through that process of investing that money. So a young man in Isiolo doesn't have to think about coming to Nairobi to get their dreams actualized. Are
you positive that this is achievable based on what we have seen on the current constitution as it stands, and looking at the amendments that the BBI proposes? Do you suppose there's some level of positivity that this can be achieved? That you will answer me after this break. Let's take a look at some of the questions that you raised, or some of your comments. Luz Pakla says, bring more Chinese in Kenya and let them occupy, because after all, there is nothing much that is happening in terms of progress. And Lydia Mathia says, indeed, how do we treat young people in conflict with the law? The judiciary ombudsman will be a welcome reprieve for the thousands of youth caught up in the wheel of justice for petty offenses. And Juan Banaba Tereba says, don't lie, there is creation of jobs. The guy who was given tender by government from Kiambu is crying now. And a couple of many other messages coming on board as we get to react. I just picked on some of all them that we have discussed about. Before we come to you, Kegoli, let's go back to the other gentlemen at the back, and we get to hear what it is they have to say about the conversations that we're having this morning. And yes, many argue that the BBI is a good document. I'd want to assume that now that you're a youth leader of ANC, you are in support of the document. Before we get to hear from you, let's hear what Nordin Kagai, who's a lawyer, is going to say, the legal perspective of it, the reality of us realizing the document as it stands, and whether it's going to face some level of legal test, because after all, we've seen how the court battles can really be a hindrance to some of this progress that we witness.
Linda, I've taken a couple of minutes just to listen to what everybody is saying, so that I can actually come and debunk what I have in my mind. Now, the BBI, for example, I have some reservations when it comes to the BBI. First and foremost, as a judicial officer, I have an issue with the appointment of the ombudsman, if it is going to be courtesy of the president, because that in itself means he or she will serve the president. So it will be more or less like when you were in school, that prefect who never liked you. So they look at you, they'll always jot down your name in the noisemakers list, but they will always leave out their friends. So what we would want in an ideal situation, the JSC to do a proper vetting, then the appointment of the ombudsman should be via the Chief Justice, because we are talking about strengthening institutions. Now, you can't have an executive trying to have its arm in the judiciary to control the same judiciary. We want institutions to be strong. Now, when we go now to what we're talking about, the youth and BBI, to be honest with you, what the BBI is proposing for the youth is neither here nor there. It hasn't touched on the real issues facing the young men and women in this country.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. Last year in December, I had a football tournament. in Dagoretti North. My tournament was dubbed Citizenship Rights Through Sports. So I did a legal aid and sports empowerment. So what I learned at the ground is that most young men and women don't have an ID card. Let's start from there. You are telling me I can have a business without paying tax for 7 years. As a lawyer, I'll tell you for free, you can't register any business without an ID. That's number one.
Okay.
You're being told the young men and women of this country do not vote. Don't take part in the decision-making process of this country. You have not been given an ID.
You had a conversation with them. What was the main reason as to why they do not hold
Now,
IDs?
I'll tell you, the thing is, when they go to the chief's camp, they ask for money
To get IDs.
to get IDs. You're a Kenyan. Forget, there are those who go via vetting. Forget those who are normally accustomed to vetting. The normal people also don't have IDs. So this is a young man with no ID, and you're being told you should vote. You're being told, I'm giving you a 7-year grace period, which you can't access because as a lawyer, I can't register a company for you without an ID. Now, challenge number 2. Now we are being told they'll open a youth commission. Do you know the NYC that we have currently? She said it is in the constitution. The NYC we have currently has an annual budget of 90 million. What can you do with 90 million to 65% of the population?
Okay.
So for me, I'll tell you this. The issues facing the people of Kenya have not been addressed because the problem facing the Kenyans is not a document. It's not the constitution. It is the political players. Once we change their software, because we can have the best, like for example, we have the best constitution. They have failed to implement it. They can't implement the constitution. Now you're saying, let us go and alter it because we have failed to implement this. The best thing we need to do is we need to change the software of these leaders that we have. And that is the issue.
Akadima, on face value, do you agree that there's really nothing that is tangible for the people that is within the BBI document? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the argument on ground is that the youths are the biggest beneficiaries of this document. Is it on face value or what?
Thank you so much, Linda, and to all our viewers. And I'm also very glad to be part of a conversation with very brilliant young people. And I think this is a generational mission that we are holding right now, discussing issues that are pertaining to the next generation, and we are the bearers. Number 2, youth is a passing cloud. There is no qualification. In fact, being a youth doesn't qualify you to have anything in life. It's just a stage in life where you have to pass, and it's a stage where you have to be nurtured and mentored for the next stage in life. So I want any young person who is listening to me this morning to know that youth is a passing cloud and it is not a qualification for you to get anything in life. Number 3, we are having this vital conversation on very key national issues, particularly the document of BBI. Somebody who works from ANC party, initially we were the founders of NASA and we were the vision bearers of the NASA dream that was taking many people to Canaan. And my friend Eric here will attest that we were journeying to Canaan, but they left us at River Jordan. They know the story. So us from ANC, we felt that at River Jordan, it was the height of betrayal of the daily struggles and hopes of our people. But despite the betrayal that took place at River Jordan, and
You're the vision bearer.
We were the vision
How do you allow for somebody else to come in and,
yes. We are not a selfish political party.
Oh, no. Okay.
We have innovated this thing because we want to journey with the people going forward.
Okay.
Now, and you remember, Linda, and to our viewers here, that our brother called the Chief Justice Kenani is the one who helped us to fail the walls of Jericho when we arrived at Jericho. You remember the story. But beyond that, after the BBI task force and subsequently the steering committee were established, there were these key issues that were being canvassed within the framework of the BBI. And because they are national issues and we have a right to participate on issues that are public, we participated in the process. And we said that we want to listen, we want to wait for the report. So the report was out. The report encompasses 3 major aspects. Number 1, it is the policy/administrative proposals. Then there are those legislative proposals. The lawyers are here, they have dissected the report. Then there is the constitutional proposals. So there is this Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020, which many people are focusing on mostly. And Linda, this is a fallacy. Many people are focused on the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020, and they have forgotten that there are policy, administrative, and legislative proposals that are supposed to be implemented on a continuous basis without even waiting for a referendum. Now, there are some certain aspects my fellow leaders have talked about, and I want to just highlight some of them. The main issue that is affecting particularly the youth population is the issue of the economy. If we don't have a working economy, then we are not going to have opportunities for people who are going to advance their life, particularly for young people.
Yeah.
And how has BBI addressed the issue of the economy? If you look at the proposals within Article 18 of the Constitution Amendment Bill, they have talked about the issue of the centrality of the economy. And then they have talked about the issue of shared prosperity. This is a very key issue, and it was a thematic area in the BBI document. And they have addressed it exhaustively. I don't know whether we are lazy in reading or we have refused to read.
Reading is one thing. Reading is one thing. Reading is one thing. The policies are always beautiful, and you'd be told that. You know, walk into these offices, you'll find the best of policies in setting up. But the implementation is what we are questioning. The individuals that are driving this narrative are the people that we are questioning.
Now, let me address that. Let me address in summary. In summary,
told us.
I want to
no, it's okay. He can counter. He is allowed to counter. He is allowed to.
You know why I'm saying
now
this?
the biggest beneficiaries of the BBI document are the hustler nations, despite the fact that they steal manifestos of other political parties. But they are the biggest beneficiaries. How has it been addressed? The BBI document has talked about shared prosperity, and the BBI document has talked about expanding the national cake. How do you expand the national cake? You involve more people in creating a productive economy. That means that we should talk about issues of creating a sovereign wealth fund. For example, Linda, if Turkana is giving Kenya oil, what is Kenya giving Turkana? If Muranga is giving Nairobi water, what is Nairobi giving Muranga in return?
Okay.
If Kitui is giving Kenya coal, what is Kenya giving Kitui in return? And we have all talked about this issue of shared prosperity, and we have put constitutional guarantees to address the issues of the hustler nation.
If we're talking about oil, you know what oil
Linda,
is, the
if
situation
you
of oil.
allow me to finish this thought.
Make it brief.
I'm summarizing.
Okay.
If you look at the constitutional guarantees of 35% going to counties, the hustler nation has been addressed through the constitutional guarantee of 35%.
So when you talk
with
about
more
the hustler
resources,
nation,
yes.
Are you talking about individuals, that is Deputy President William Ruto and his supporters, or you're talking about the hustler down on ground?
I'm talking about the ordinary youth, because today we're talking about young people who are suffering, the poor of the poorest. The poor masses of our people, particularly the young people, have been addressed through the constitutional guarantees. Now, the second part of these guarantees, if we are having that 5% going to counties, and we have 5% going to every ward in this country, the question we should be asking, how do we ensure that we implement these guarantees? The question of having guarantees and implementation is different. Now it comes to the issue of goodwill and electing good leaders.
Okay.
So we are urging young people to elect good leaders who can implement the guarantees that are in the Constitution.
Please,
so the
Linda,
issues of hustler nation are
please,
addressed.
please, Linda, before he gave the mic to somebody else.
Yes.
I want him to tell us. He has just told us that our economy is not doing well.
Yes.
But our president, the other day, told us that we are losing 2 million daily.
Okay.
How then can he sit here and say that we are not doing well?
Okay.
I want him to tell.
So we have enough money to a point where we can.
We have enough money, as per the president, to do and to implement any other policy.
But corruption would not allow
us. Corruption has not.
Okay,
and we have agreed for corruption to thrive. Let's just allow Solomon to come in. Let's allow Solomon to come in briefly.
I think it's good we allow the moderator to be in charge.
Just because it's coming.
It's her role to ask.
No, on this one is survival for the fittest. Because we only have 8 hours.
It is our role to ask the questions, and it is ours to answer them. We cannot be.
So you want to answer Moriah?
No.
All right.
I want to first answer you. You first said about inclusivity of the young people in the BBI. I would like to tell all of us, if you don't remember, let me jog your memory. The CEO of the BBI task force is one Dan Mwangi, a young person like us. The person who was in charge of all those guys in the task force.
Are you in agreement, Kigoli?
Yes, Dan Mwangi.
All right.
And
how young is young in this case?
Let me say this. Let me say this also. You know, we only carry our own ideas.
All right.
Let me say also that it is wrong for people to come on a national television and say there's nothing for the young people in the BBI. When we are saying that we are devolving 35% of our national revenue to the counties, and then you say that there is nothing for the young people. When we are saying that we are going to introduce the ward fund, and the ward fund is going to look for development projects right at the grassroots of that particular
probably
ward.
Eric and Nodin would want to say 15% has not been able to reach the county.
No, this is my point.
Okay.
Let me say this. Let us do an audit, and let us not be lazy. Last time when I was here and we were discussing BBI, I talked about laziness.
Yes.
Since the inception of devolution, over 1 trillion has been sent to the counties. Now I want someone to tell me, out of that 1 trillion, which is that one coin that was not sent in the year 2019-2020. Don't tell me about 2020-2021. There are some few challenges, but before we get to the July,
to the last
where the fiscal year ends, all that money will be on the ground.
If
so
all this goes, then accountability is also a question.
That's another issue.
Okay.
Let us now talk about the resources first.
All right.
So we shall have money at the ground. We shall have the ward fund. We are going to have incubation centers. Let me shock you. When I went home over the holidays, my brother cleared the university, I think, around 2020, April. And I got him at home, and I went to his house, his small house, and I got an incubation machine. You know, this one that does something and then you get chicks. And I asked him, what is this doing here? No, he told me, no, I'm the chairman of a group here, youth group here, and the governor, through his CEC, has given us this machine. So by the end of this month, we are going to have like 600 as the starting batch. Now they are talking of 3,000. And we are saying we only have 15%. Suppose now we give the governor 35%. How many such groups is he going to help? So I'm saying, if it is not happening in your county, let me tell you, my dear friend, it is happening elsewhere.
Okay.
We have seen success cases. I'm not through. Let me
we have to
let me wind up by this. Let me wind up by this.
Yeah.
The biggest casualties when it comes to political violence are the young people. Now we are sitting down as a nation and saying, can we address our issue and avoid the winner takes all analogy?
Okay.
Whereby if you become the president, the power rests with you. Can we now have the leader of opposition?
You have the microphone, so you can proceed.
We shall not have. We shall not have.
Yes, you are. That's what I'm saying. You have the microphone. Take up the chat.
We shall not have. Please allow me a second. Just
a second. It better be a second.
This is my closing on this. We shall not have.
All right.
But
say
Linda,
something and then allow the ladies to have the microphone,
sure.
and then we go to Eric after you.
Yes,
Linda, someone say the moderator, and that guy has been talking all along.
Oh, no, he only spoke once. He spoke once.
Okay.
He only spoke was you.
Yes, my friend set a very dangerous precedent that should not go unchallenged.
Okay.
You see, it is not government's problem that people don't have IDs. You understand? So everybody is constitutionally required to have that document upon attaining the age of 18.
18, yeah.
And then, you see, the Tanga faction, they advance their narrative in a way that it's less challenged, so it might look like what they are saying is true. But they will not tell young people that in this BBI document, that there is incubation centers, that you guys are going to be trained and be given money and you start businesses, as my good friend has said. You see, Kenya is ranked among the best countries in Africa. If you check in the records of Africa Development Bank or Africa Union, that is among the most innovative countries in Africa. So when a political leader of a stature in this country would address himself to wheelbarrows and mikokotenis and would not address himself to the innovation and creativity and entrepreneurial spirit of other young people in this country, would not want to address the issue of joblessness among university graduates, then I'm left wondering what policies are our leaders going to advance as they run for office?
And we'll come to you later on, Nodin, to justify who is supposed to be responsible for people getting IDs, not before Eric comes in, and then we'll come to you.
Okay, thank you. I've been listening us talking, and Linda, I want to say BBI is a document. Just like my friend from ANC has said, it has, it is actually sectioned into many groups. There's legislative and what have you. Our problem, I can give you many other BBIs we have. I'll give you an example of a BBI, Ndungu Commission. Listen, how it is coming with the youth.
Okay.
Ndungu Commission. People have taken land away from us. Youths don't get land because some of the land that would have been even cheaper were taken away. So the land that is available, it is available but very expensive. How do you want to tell me if Ndungu Commission was not implemented till today, and we have a good constitution 2010, and it's not yet well implemented till now, who is telling you that the BBI, when it goes through, and it is a document that you are putting as our leading document going in future, it's going to be implemented as much. Give you one document. So the problem we have, Linda, as much as you can work hard, it is the leadership in the country. And this is where our party ODM, you said leadership in youth, gave us an opportunity that we can challenge we can challenge ourselves and decide to run in the party. And I'm thinking, it is time Eric Ragalo can take his papers to ODM and decide to run as a youth for president of this country. Okay. I think by the end of the week,
you will be presenting these
papers. I will be
representing
my papers.
Remember,
Why?
the 1 million is not refundable.
No problem.
All right, it's okay.
1 million is not refundable, but 1 million is not money.
Yes. If
1 million, it is us to decide. We can push the party to give us a nod without the money.
All right, this was one of my questions. This was one of my questions. Yes, allow me to go.
Is the youth going to get a position?
Let me look with the ladies, and I know you have something to say. One of the reasons why Eric says that he, for a moment, decided to take a U-turn on the BBI or his support on the BBI is because there was no incorporation of the Health Commission. Yes. And so the question then would be, would just one thing that has not been incorporated, that is of your interest, get you to that point where you decide that, okay, the entire document is not as good just because one thing has not been incorporated. And we're coming to young leadership and just how much we've done as a country. KD.
One, I am very sad that the Health Commission was not incorporated.
Yes.
In the BBI. And I think that is a battle we still need to fight because we need the healthcare workers.
Why?
The healthcare workers issues, not as a health commission. Anyway, Nuruddin said something about us not implementing the 2010 constitution. I'd like him, he's a lawyer, he's misleading us. The 2010 constitution has been fully implemented apart from one part.
Fully?
Yes, that will take us through a referendum, and that is the 2/3 gender role. They forget to tell us that the 2/3 gender role almost threw us into a constitutional crisis. That is one thing we need to address now in 2021 before we go to an election. When people say that it's too early for BBI, I am wondering, in a country that goes into cyclic violence every 5 years, this is 2021, if we don't address issues for 2022, when are we going to address it? If we don't address the issues of women representation in parliament in 2021, before we go for an election in 2022, now we go into 2022, the CJ tells us that the parliament is not constitutional. Are we going back to an election again in 2023 because we were afraid of implementing the BBI in 2021? Again, the BBI is not constitutional change. It's an amendment. It is a bill. Same way I would have come with a bill for musicians and taken it to parliament. We vote for it as a bill, not as a multiple choice thing, because the person who took it as a bill took it as a bill. If there's one part you don't agree with, flop the whole thing.
The 2/3 gender rule did not sail through. Do you suppose then, or don't you think then it would have been wise for us, if we've been able to implement the entire document as you rightfully put it, apart from this particular one, wouldn't it have been wise for us to implement this particular one now we start having a conversation?
We cannot implement the 2/3 gender rule without a referendum.
Okay.
And again, why are we going for a referendum on one issue when we have other issues that have been bothering us? Since you're going into a referendum, why don't you bring other issues that we have tried and tested the Constitution for 10 years and seen what works and what does not work?
Let's have Muraya and then Nordin. Let's have Muraya briefly. We're going to come to you.
Why are we being misled by Nani? That the Constitution has been fully implemented. Just reason. I'm now answering you. If it has been fully implemented, why do we have corruption? Why do we still have people? Listen. Why do we have striking doctors? Okay. Why don't we have money to cater
make sure
for
that we're able to hear you?
Judiciary. Why do we have all these kind of problems facing, and now Solomon is telling us that we must go a BBI way to solve our problems. Yet, in our constitution, things have been implemented.
These are provisions within the constitution.
But even Linda.
So let's take
a reply. Okay. Let's allow Aruguru a reply.
Let me just.
Okay.
I'm supposed to reply to what she said and what he said.
We will come to you. We'll come to you. All right.
So I want to begin with what he said, that BBI is neither here nor there, and I'll be very practical with what we have had.
Make it brief, though.
Yes. At a mashinani level. Number one, my biggest disappointment is that we have not prioritized mental health in terms of implementation moving forward. There was a recommendation to have a mental health commission, and this is something that we actually need in this country, noting that we have high cases in terms of suicide, brutal murders by young people. We need to get to a place where we're taking care of the mental health of young people. Number two, when we discuss about funds coming to the county level, it is of utmost importance. We may talk on a point of privilege, but I know that there are young people who are waiting for this fund to activate the creative economy. All these online content and influencers that we have around, their livelihood hangs on the ability for the government of Kenya, through the devolved structures like now the Word Fund, to ensure that they have perhaps infrastructure that allows them to produce high quality content, because not all of us can fit informal employment. We need to have money at a ward level that ensures that the creative economy is actually activated. Issues of the two, that's gender role, are of utmost importance. I am a young person involved in movement building for young women leaders in Daughters of the Mountain and Daughters of Kenya. What we are seeing now is an effort to have more and more women, not only in the National Assembly through nomination or through top-up, even for consideration as deputy governors at a county level, because all these seats that are being created, mind you, even talks and discussions on having an expanded executive. We have imagined the very same faces that we see in our political circles to be the beneficiaries of those 5 top seats. So how about we reimagine those 5 seats with consideration to young women and young men of this country? It is not actually impossible. But the biggest challenge would be movement building. We had a very poor show in terms of the BBI conversations at the initial stages. Women were really giving their recommendations, and as young people, we are not really build strong movements to support our causes at that level. But now, the reality that we have now is such that we have an opportunity to movement build within political parties, within the private sector, to ensure a reimagination of an expanded executive, of an expanded and considered voices of young people at a county level, and even in terms of financial distribution still at a county level.
Linda,
allow Nordin to come in.
No, let me take him to class real quick. He says the ID isn't a prerogative of the government. That's a lie. Why do you go to the chief's camp? Why do you go to the chief's office?
It's a government
and
office.
Then your ID has these words, Government of the Republic of Kenya. Very fast. Now to her, she says the constitution has been implemented fully. I won't go so much into it. I'll give her a simple illustration of how the government undermines the constitution. The occurrences in the Nairobi County. The law is very clear. You have no governor, no deputy governor. An acting governor, a by-election is set, gazettement of aspirants. And then you come and change that Relax, bring that, and now you want to have a deputy governor. When you look at the County Governments Act, Section 32D, it clearly states that for one to ascend into the deputy governor's office, there needs to be a seal of the governor. The acting governor cannot purport to have the seal for the deputy governor to be sworn in. Now, let me bring back to the discussion, youth and BBI. You see, I sit here and I'm sad because the topic is youth and BBI. But we have changed this into a tanga-tanga and pro-BBI conversation. We have changed ourselves here into a lobby group. And I will never stand as a lobby group. We need to talk about the youth, the aspect of the youth. We are now having the BBI team, the tanga-tanga team. We need to have the youth team. Because let me tell you something, the future is for the young. We have the advantage of time. The policy they're making will affect us. The young men and women of this country need to rise up and offer alternative leadership. And how do you do that? Seek elective office. The challenges that face us as young men and women are at the administration level and also at the policy level.
You know, I'm curious.
Let me just finish this.
Okay.
Let me just finish.
Linda actually
What I'm saying, let me just finish. Relax. Let me just finish. What I'm saying in essence, you see, the challenges that these people in the 80s, 70s, and 90s face as young people are not the same as us. In the 80s and 90s, they would finish school and get jobs. In the 80s and 90s, they would get IDs in school. Right now, things are different. You finish school at 23 years, graduate, and you're told you need to have 5 years experience. Or you're supposed to be born with experience. Those are things we need to change. And how do you change them? You need to
have a standing without ANC. Let's allow Academa come in. It better be 1 second. It better be, yes, one word.
One word, please. What I want to tell my sister, this is not a political conversation, but I will tell my sister that BBI has not been fully implemented because the money, because the money you're holding has not changed. We were supposed to have a new currency without a face of a person. Okay? Is that not there? So that was supposed to be implemented. It is so simple.
Right,
that was very simple.
One. And you know, I want us to probably answer this. And the best people who are able to answer, 30 seconds.
Yes.
30 seconds.
Yes. It is very okay.
30 seconds.
It is very okay for young people to belong to different political ideologies.
Yes.
It is very okay for young people to hold different opinions. The only thing that we need to do is to arrive at a consensus on what matters for us the most. When we have a discussion saying that we have turned this discussion into a lobby group, that is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Lobbying from a different angles to ensure that our best interests are met where we are. Arguing that young people then don't have a political voice, and yet these are the very same vehicles that are allowing us to get to these positions of influence is not so.
And probably that answers my question, because I wanted to ask you this, Kadima. I mean, honestly, do you have any standing as a youth without ANC? Do you have any standing as a youth without ODM? If at all we have to say now we have to coin a narrative, or we have to have a conversation that, you know, we're focusing as, we're focusing on addressing the issues as youths, as opposed to, you know, as youths from ANC, youths from Tanga-Tanga. And reality also is that we cannot overlook what he says, because within our very own political parties, or the parties that we align with, we have also not been able to address these issues as expected.
Thank you so much, Linda. First of all, our politics in Kenya is structured along political parties, per se. It is unlike Southern Sudan, where they are structured along who can marshal the highest number of military troops. So we must acknowledge that politics in Kenya is structured along political parties. So if you want to have an active involvement in Kenyan politics, you must join or form your own political party. That is number one. Okay. Then number two, I have my own standing as a young person, because when I'm in ANC, I am in ANC because I participated in forming ANC. I am participating in popularizing ANC as a party. So ANC itself as a party, the ideologies and the manifesto we are advancing to the Kenyan people, and that we have been advancing before, is I am part and parcel of that process. So ANC is me, and me am ANC. So you can never separate me, the two of us, because I'm part and parcel of that.
Until that time you decide to defect.
Until that time when I said, not per se defecting, to exit the party. But I don't think I'm going to exit anytime soon. Thirdly, Linda, we are having a very interesting discussion here, and I have had Waruguru talking about BBI did not create, they wanted a mental health commission. But at least they were lucky. BBI proposed the Department of mental health,
It was
wellness,
KD.
and happiness.
Uh-huh.
There's a department that's been created called mental health, wellness, and happiness. So at least they advance the people the happiness. It is there. It is there.
Yeah, it is
if
there.
You get,
It is
if
there.
you get a chance to read, and that's why I'm saying we need
Yeah.
to read the legislative proposals
Yes.
and the policy proposal that are in the BBI. I heard somebody here, was it Eric or Kendi,
Kendi,
talking about the health commission. I think it was Kendi. If you look at the legislative proposals, there has been a proposal of establishing a health service commission. It is there in the BBI. Note, people are just focusing on the Constitution Amendment Bill. The Health Service Commission has been proposed, and it has been anchored to do the HR, the human resource component, to ensure that the HR policies are regular and they are universal across counties.
Not with mastered authority, though.
Yes, unlike now, where counties have their own policies of employing doctors at different terms, where a county will employ a doctor and pay them differently from one county to the other. There is no standard template on how doctors are engaged. So the Health Service Commission that has been proposed in BBI has been given that part.
An advisory.
No, it
yes.
is. It is.
Sorry, or is it?
It's not an
That's why I said
advisory.
not
It has about 10 functions.
Not mastered
Okay.
authority.
It has about the Health Service Commission has about 10 functions, and I will urge Eric, because even his party is the founder member of BBI, he should be knowing more than I do.
Okay.
Because they are more proponent.
That's why I'm voting no. Whether I'm a member of that party.
Yes, and
because of the same.
I support his
Because
right.
you're
Yes,
I
because
support his
know,
right.
and I know what I wanted.
I support
in
his
the
right.
BBI.
I support his right to
Yes.
disagree. Linda,
Uh-huh.
I support Eric's right to disagree with his own political party because that is the essence of democracy.
Okay.
But the Health Service Commission that has been proposed in BBI is very. And by the way, I was at some point before the BBI report was released to the public. I was where Eric was because I was not supporting BBI. I was seeing it as a document of the betrayal of the struggles of the people. I said that before. But after reading the BBI document, and after canvassing the document within our party structures, and after our party leader presenting at Bomas of Kenya, and saying that we want the following issues encompassed in the final document that will be presented before the people, our 15 demands were addressed and we were satisfied. And once we applied our minds, we said, now the good document that we are going to push forward is good. And we, as political parties, we must take decisive decisions.
Just how many youths are privy to
Now-
this information?
now, let
we're
me-
coming to you and then we come. Kenny has a point. It better be 30
30
seconds.
seconds,
Yes,
30
yes,
seconds
and
later
make it
to...
Make it very short, 30 seconds, and then we come to you. We
First
come
of
to
all, I'd
Dolly,
like
eh?
to correct Nuruddin. You know, voters are very good at sitting down pretty and blaming the constitution for everything and blaming leadership for everything. When we started this conversation, we started with Soko. By the way, I am embarrassed that he was the Nairobi County governor and he was voted for by the youth. So when you go back to the constitution and say that it was not implemented because we have corruption, same people talking about corruption are the same people who are backing people who have records of corruption.
Okay.
Then go back and blame it on the constitution that it has not been implemented because we have corruption. When you talk about 2 billion, I'll go back to Kadnan. When you talk about 2 billion, it is not just the presidency. How much has your governor stolen? How much have your MCAs stolen? Do you ask them how they're using money?
Yeah.
Ama we just go back to the president and say, ameshinda kufight corruption. You as a voter, you as a youth, need to also keep your leaders accountable. Then don't go back to the constitution and say the constitution has not been implemented. Have you implemented it by voting leaders who meet the Article 6?
Okay. Another thing that is a problem right now is that, well, you have the privilege of sitting in the presence of your party offices. Solomon is right next to the helm. I'd say the likes of Ragalo are pretty much close to, are just within the party. And so they have had the privilege of going through the document. Just how many youths really have the privilege, if we are to talk about it today? How many of them have the soft copies? How many of them have the hard copies? How many of them will make a decision based on having gone through the document today?
You look at your present setting and then your future projection. You walk around the country today and you see thousands of young people lacking even prospects for the future. And that is a problem. Our 2010 constitution was never an economic document. It was addressing structures and legalese. And lawyers listen. Lawyers reflect. And my friend misquoted me. But then again, The point is this. The point is this.
Okay.
The point is this. What BBI is bringing into the 2010 Constitution is now the economic software. When people are going into rallies and they're discrediting the BBI process.
Hold it right there. Hold it, Kigoli. The 2010 being, a structural document, a document that is supposed to, straighten the structures that we have today. I've had conversations with very many people that argue that the biggest problem that bedevil us today is the fact that we do not have our systems right. We do not have our structures right. So if this did not address the problem of the structures, setting them straight and proper, what makes you think that if the economic document comes in, then we'll have good structures to ensure that all this is well implemented?
But when people speak about systems not right, what do they mean? You understand? 2010 Constitution took leadership to where the people are.
Okay.
That's why we are having MCAs. You understand? That's why right now you can walk into remote areas and you see roads opening up.
Yeah.
And that's all thanks to governors working hand in hand with MCAs. And then back to the point I was bringing out. What we need to do right now, and it is the defining challenge of our time, how to create and sustain economic growth and development. And what BBI is addressing is putting wealth in the hands of young people, making young people credit worthy. Right now, you would ask yourself, how many young people are credit worthy? How many can afford even a loan to start a business? It's near to impossible. And what this document is essentially going to do is to make sure that these young people are trained, given money, and are supported towards the course and journey of starting a business so that we can increase wealth. And when people have disposable income, they can make purchases that will speed up the growth of a gross domestic product.
You can only understand what he says if you go to Solomon.
Less than a minute. 1 second. When President Kibaki got in power in 2007, okay? There was no BBI, there was no 2010 Constitution.
But the
in 2002, there was economic empowerment to youth. People got jobs. Do you need a BBI to do that?
All right.
It is leadership. It is leadership.
It is Solomon's style. Solomon is going to support you on something because he's a pro-BBI.
They're not referencing anything.
So,
okay.
I think I've accepted 30 seconds intervention and my time has been eaten.
So,
but I will speak.
Okay.
And please don't interrupt.
Please don't. Don't make it 5 or 3 minutes.
One, I want to say this. The young people of Kenya have been minding other people's business and not their own.
Okay.
I mean, why would a young person be speaking of that gender rule? Why would a young person be speaking?
Because we are. Let me answer you. Let me answer you.
Kindly.
Solomon, let me read this. Let me read.
I will not allow.
You don't even want me as the moderator to say something.
Kindly.
Hold it, Apana. I want to counter this. Let me just read this message.
If we are
Solomon, hold it right there. Allow me to read this message because we also have to involve the viewer. And then it is in.
Just when I start speaking,
it is in connection with what you're saying. No, Nerea says this. Nerea says
I don't
this.
know.
Probably an answer.
I don't think it's good.
No. We're coming back to him. Nerea says this. Can we talk about the place of young women post BBI? We must ensure the positions created for top up include them. This can only be achieved if they are at the decision-making table. Let youth leagues in political parties take charge. Probably this answers your question. Why should they be involved? As a youth, it does not make you less of a woman. You can be a youth and a woman at the same time.
Can I speak now?
All right.
What you did,
okay.
You intervened.
You jumped into the conclusion.
At a very early.
Okay.
You jumped the gun.
Proceed.
This is what I mean, and this is a fact.
Okay.
If you go to the mashinani you keep on talking about, where you come from, you will know that whenever gender is mentioned, what comes to my mind and what comes to so many people's mind is women.
Okay.
And youth is not women. Youth is men and women. What I mean by saying that young people should not be minding other people's business and they should first mind their own business. You find someone saying that, commission, health commission. Another one is saying, old people. The president himself, when addressing us at KICC, said, young people of the Republic of Kenya, how do you feel when you see that you're the biggest section of the population, yet much of your issues are controlled by those who belong to a small section of the population? It is because of that reason. BBI is telling us that it is giving us a youth commission. That they are going to give us a reprieve for 4 years before we start paying the HELB loans. That we are going to have incubation centers. Are we together?
Yeah.
And young people cannot hold that and run away with it and forget everything else. I like women. Women have picked to that. And by the way, they don't care about what the BBI is saying in other clauses. They only want to focus on that because they know that is where their benefit
But
lies.
because they have been cheated before.
No, because they know what they want. Young people in this country, my friend, do not know what they want. And that's why you say, let me say, it's my right.
It's also not good to generalize.
It's misleading.
Please, Linda, you must protect me because these guys.
Let me tell you something.
But again, we don't have too much time.
We cannot turn this to a market. We cannot, my friend.
Means that
Let's allow him 30 more seconds.
Please.
is not ready to create job opportunities to Kenyans.
Let's allow him 30.
We
Let us allow this. Let us not allow this one to look like a market.
Moriah, let's have some order.
No, have you heard what Moriah said? Have you heard what he said?
This time I must finish.
Very dangerous. That is in regards. That is your opinion. That is dangerous as per your opinion.
No, like when there is a tax holiday.
Let's allow Solomon finish.
As of this one, I must finish. I must finish. And I must
30
say the
seconds,
truth.
30 seconds.
That all the time, young people get an opportunity to elect one of their own to parliament, to county assembly, to senate, to the presidency. What do? And then you tell me, you're here telling me, relax.
And honestly, what
Relax.
have they done? What have they done? The
What have
people
they done?
who are at the top of the helm right now.
They start complaining immediately after putting people to office.
Let's take a step back.
Yes.
One of the main reasons as to why young people do not identify or feel that they don't identify with this BBI document is access to information. And very clearly the challenge to the BBI team is to ensure that factual information gets to young people, not necessarily through the political leaders, but through objective forums where young people from across the divide can engage on this document. We have seen cases, and these are actually like the truth. We have seen cases of people who want to use BBI conversations as a launching pad for other stuff for their own personal interest, missing the point that we need to leverage on our internet connectivity, our infrastructure back at home in terms of the town barazas to engage young people factually on these documents. That is why when we come here for this discussion and we are engaging using some very, very difficult words, fine, it's all very rosy and very practical at the end of the day in terms of implementation. But unless we break down the BBI concepts in an easy to understand way in which that Wanjiku who is in Nyeri is able to understand the tangible benefits accruing to the young people, they will not identify with it. Now, the risk that we have right now is that the carriers and the vision bearers of this BBI is mostly the political elite.
Yeah.
And we have not seen, other sectors, be it in the private sector or even the main BBI team itself, coming out strongly. Perhaps we will see it when now we go to the county assemblies and moving on forward. But carrying on this conversation needs to be very, very objective and needs to be run in a point whereby nobody is using it as a launching pad for their own selfish interest.
We have a maximum of 9
that's the
minutes
only
left.
way we will connect poverty, BBI, creative economy and BBI, women and youth issues and BBI. A factual conversation across all board. The very same way women have been doing it.
Yes.
We have seen women from the ODM and all the other parties coming together to fight for their own interest and build their own movements. That is the very same way we can achieve youth matters in this BBI report by actually building movements born out of factual discussions.
All right, so we are closing this, and in 1 minute, everyone.
Okay,
So
I
yes.
want to ask Solomon, and I want to put it this way here. Do you know what I'm passing through because of the same government that we are told that is more concerned with youth? We were told to have companies that we can access 30% government procurement.
Okay.
I got one. And I'm telling you, I'm about to be auctioned because of the recent tenders that were given by the government to build lockers and desks. And I have supplied fully to schools.
Okay.
But I have not been paid a penny. And someone here is telling me that 30% is coming to the counties so that we can continue being tuendelee kufinyiliwa huko machinani.
At least it's a pending
Now
bill.
I'm asking,
It's a
the
pending
president
bill.
himself rounds the program, but he is now mute. And again I'm saying, na ninauliza, akasema kwamba pesa inapotea milioni 2 ama bilioni 2 kwa kila siku. Hiyo ni kusema aje? Ana ufahamu kwamba kuna ufisadi unaoendelea. There is corruption that is going on. And he is in charge. So he is not taking charge.
Coming from the horse's mouth, proceed, give it to Nordin. But then again, Eric, you're 1 minute. You've heard him speak.
Yeah,
it is unfortunate to hear such a story, but the truth is that it is happening.
I would want to tell our youth that let's get into politics, let's get the seats that we need to get. I have vied, this is the 3rd time that I'm going to be in the ballot, and I'm going to challenge the master himself, Raila Amolo Odinga, for presidency. I'm not smiling. I know the road ahead is tough.
I mean,
and you only have to have the muscle, not on your hand, but in your mind and in your heart, to go to that kind of challenges. I've had many other challenges as again a Luo who's always been Kikuyu land, fighting, wrangling through, and I've made inroads there. Solomon knew me through that road. And I am going to challenge Raila Odinga for presidency. We will go for nomination. I will beat him. Why is he better than me?
All right, that's good.
At 30, at my age, Raila was doing the same. He was challenging the government. So why are you youths, the same way someone said, and this is Solomon, why are you clinging on your other people? Why don't you find your channel and get there?
Do we have the Bobby Wines? Do we have the Chamisas? Do we have the Malemas? Do we have them in the country today?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will vote for you.
Congratulations. I will.
I will vote for you.
I have one. And a lady, you see? Raila is bluesing, you see?
Asubuhi saa 12.
Yes.
That's the direction we need to take. Yeah. Also, the BBI does not only talk about the policy, it also talks about there is a part of citizen responsibility. And I will urge the youth to be more responsible in voting for leaders. There is something about quality versus quantity. We want quality leadership. We do not want the kind of leadership, youth leaders that go to embarrass us in parliament. The kind of youth leaders that my mother looks at and like, vijana hizi ndio kazi mnataka tuwapatie ndio mwende kufanya hiyo kazi ambayo mnaenda kufanya huko. We also need to shift from blaming the government and shift from blame games to offering solutions. Whenever you blame something, offer a solution to what you are saying. We also need to move from being used by politicians, where politicians use us, someone is corrupt. We keep talking about corruption in government. Who votes for these corrupt leaders? 70% of the population. Who are the youth? Once you move from the corrupt camps, once you move from supporting corrupt people, that money will not even require BBI. It will come to us.
What I tell my fellow young men and women is that for the youth to actually have a say in Kenya, for you to shape the future of Kenya, we first have to be united. We have been divided, and that is the issue. It's divide and rule. And they have suppressed us to poverty so they can use us to picket and to fight their political battles. What we need to do is, first and foremost, before we even talk about offering alternative leadership, which I support, we have to be patriotic. Love Kenya more than we love ourselves. Because if we are going there for selfish interests, there's no difference between them and us. It will only be the age.
True.
So what we need to do, we have to be visionary, selfless, and patriotic. So that when we say we are offering alternative leadership, when we are on the same table as them, we talk about youthful issues. When we talk about economic and political freedom for the young men and women of this country, that is the only way we'll save this country. Because at the end of the day, if we don't offer that alternative leadership, we will always rant on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We need to move from Twitter. The anger we put on Twitter need to be brought in our votes. And what do I mean? We need to raise the integrity level of leaders to stop electing clowns. When we increase the integrity level, we will only vote for people with a vision, people who are here to serve you, not people full of rhetoric. And so for me, to empower young men and women, it is a challenge to wake up.
Indeed. All right. As we sanitize that and get to you, you can give. You can get your 1 minute.
Thank you. BBI suffers the risk of misinterpretation because a section of the politicians choose to pick the politics of it and not to advance the goodness, the economic angle of BBI. This document comes with an economic promise, and if we are good enough and are able to think about ourselves and our children, then we need to also examine BBI against the scales of the economy. And I want to advance heavily on the economy because that is the defining challenge of this time. And you've seen even foreign governments through executive orders and policy initiatives, and what we need to do as a country is to appreciate that BBI, for the first time, is seating the promise of young people in the Constitution. Because you've seen how policies can change over time in this country. You can wake up, look tomorrow, and things have changed. But when our promise is sitting in the BBI, and then it's not easy for people to change it overnight because it has to go through a very lengthy process. And as I wind up...
We have no time.
Yes.
30 seconds.
10 seconds.
10 actually, yes.
Moving forward, it is down to the people of Kenya to decide which way forward for this country. When you're faced with that decision, when you go to that ballot, when you get to voting for this BBI, look at BBI not because William Ruto has said this or Raila has said that, but look at it on the basis of what will my children gain from this document? How will it make my life better? 2 years from now, will my life be better or will I be worse off?
It is almost certain that we are going for a referendum from what he says. We come to you.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I'm very glad that we had this discussion. Secondly, as a political party called ANC, we have interrogated the document and we are fully supporting the BBI process. And we have enumerated our reasons through our public releases. And we want young people to see the opportunities of economic inclusion. And I'm going to recruit him to join our party because he's going to be a very good advocate of Uchumi Bora Manifesto. And then if you look at the prospect, young people must join political parties so that they can be able to fully participate in the politics of this country. And I like what Eric is doing. He wants to rival Raila Odinga for the ticket of the presidency. But I want to tell him that that is an exercise in futility. But I support him. Why? And I have a reason. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish, please. Eric, you know the ODM constitution. Your own party constitution says that the party leader is the automatic flag bearer for president. So unless he removes Raila as a party leader, and you can look at the ODM constitution, it's a public document. Unless he removes Raila Odinga as a party leader, that is when he qualifies to run for president. Otherwise, I think
the very same party is the one that fronted this. Maybe they have had a review of the same constitution.
That is a diversionary tactic. And I wish Eric could just switch to ANC where he gets a fair shot to run.
All right, Eric, you'll have the last shot to respond to that.
Let me say this. Eric, all the best.
Thank you, bro.
But
again, you are in agreement.
Don't push.
Yes, very slim. Let me say this to the young people of this nation. Like I said, pick what is yours in the BBI. Forget about the rest. The other people will take care of themselves. Take care of yourselves first. Number two, like you put it, they say we need a Mandela moment in this country. But I'm saying, I'll now coin it to my own argument, that we need a Julius Malema in Kenya. We need a Bobby Wine in Kenya. Someone we can all rally behind. Julius Malema today has 44 members of parliament. 45. Actually 45 in South Africa.
Yes.
Tell me which is that bill that they will not lobby for and pass it in parliament. Today we are sending young people, I think 10 or 8, to the National Assembly. What do you expect them to do? We do not need to join political parties in Kenya as young people. We need to form a formidable political party that will even have a presidential candidate and members of parliament, so that once and for all, we get out of the menu where we are eating every day and be on the table and we start eating them now.
Thank you. There's nothing much we can do, unfortunately. Thank you so much. Eric, 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I want to tell my brother that it's not impossible to remove
Impossible is
Raila
nothing.
as a party leader.
Thank
We'll
you.
have the delegates, and remember, there is always a belief.
Edwin Kigoli, thank you so much. Waruguru Kiai, thank you so much. Kendi Mbaya, thank you so much. Eric Regalo, thank you so much. Muriah James. Joseph, I don't know why I always confuse you with. I think the other time you were seated right next to a James. All right, well, thank you so much. Nordin Kagai, thank you so much. Nathaniel Mungari, thank you so much. And lastly, Solomon Korea, thank you so much. That's where we close it. Thank you for your feedback. We look forward to another Baraza session. We'll probably lobby for more time. Bye-bye.